Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rhynestone Podcast. My name is Driskell. I am the CEO and founder of Rhynestone Productions, a virtual music studio. And the Rhynestone Podcast is an extension of my philosophies that I employ with Rhynestone Productions. And today is going to be a very fascinating episode because I'm really looking forward to having this artist on. Today we have the incredible Yaahn Hunter Jr. on. If you guys do not know who Yaahn is, believe me, you've heard his music. His chill vibes have absolutely taken over the game as far as what content creators are using for their viral sounds. And the thing is, Yaahn has done this time and time again. I mean, we're talking 10, 15 sounds in the last 3 years where he's gone viral with that have made it onto all sorts of platforms and stuff like that. Just last week, Kylie Jenner used one of his sounds in her content. I mean, it's just the viral nature of his music. And so this interview is really great because Yaahn details his entire process of how he learned how to make music, how he learned how to produce, how he learned how to make content, how he learned to create multiple streams of revenue, how, in his words, how musicians don't have to be broke. They can actually learn the business and make money and be successful doing it. Yaahn has done it, and it's just awesome to see because one of the big narratives I'm really trying to get rid of here with the Rhynestone Podcast is that it's impossible to make money as a musician. And honestly, it's unbelievable. You can make money as a musician. We had people like Sync Beast, Graham Barton on. We've had Adam Meckler on, and these aren't guys that from being on top of the charts and playing in stadiums and stuff like that. But these are guys making lots of money making music and having fun doing it and still getting to express themselves. And Yaahn fits right into that category. And it's really exciting because Yaahn is going to show you and tell you all the resources he used to learn his very famous production style, his very incredibly viral content game plan that he has. He's going to show you step by step how he does it. And that's what's so amazing in this episode. And one of the reasons I'm just so excited that we had the chance to have him on. And on top of that, Yaahn is just an amazingly articulate speaker. Every word carries 1,000 pounds in it. I mean, you guys are going to learn a lot from this info. So without further ado, here's our podcast with Yaahn Hunter Jr. Welcome to the Rhynestone Podcast, where we navigate the ins and outs of the music industry. I'm your host, Driskell, and today we're shining a spotlight on one of music's rising stars, Yaahn Hunter Jr. Yaahn's musical journey began in the Bay Area playing in his father's church, where he quickly gained recognition for his skills on drums and keys within the gospel community. This recognition led him to Berklee College of Music, of which Yaahn is a graduate. After Berklee, Yaahn spent many years honing his keyboard, drum, and production skills, working with all sorts of artists. Eventually, Yaahn found success with his Chill Vibes mixtape series, garnering millions of views on TikTok and Instagram. His music has been featured in content by celebrities like Kylie Jenner, Queen Latifah, and DJ Jazzy Jeff, to name a few, with his distinctive "That's Hunter" tag becoming widely recognized. Beyond his mixtapes, Yaahn is an active presence on social media, offering valuable insights for music producers on his YouTube channel. He also delights audiences with his live streams, no replays, just vibes, where he serves up even more musical inspiration. Yaahn Hunter Jr., welcome to the Rhynestone Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I am so excited to have you on because you have done so many interesting things, and I'm so fascinated with your story because you have been doing the music game for a long time. You've had viral success in different avenues, and you have I think you are just a great example of what a modern musician who makes it in 2024 looks like. And I'm just so excited to dive into so many different subjects with you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. So, one of the things I found really fascinating about you is that you did get your start in church, in gospel music. I believe it was your father's church. Is that correct? Where you got your start?
Yes, absolutely.
How did church music affect your playing in the church, I guess, affect your musicianship growing up?
Pretty heavily. It sets you up by playing every Sunday. It's like you're performing a concert every week, rehearsals and getting everything together. And so it sort of prepares you for a lot of more broad settings because you're so used to playing every week. So, and the stylistics and how broad gospel is from a style standpoint, funk, R&B, more churchier stuff. It's just like this gumbo breeding ground for, I would say, success. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other church musicians would say the same thing.
Yes, I 100% agree. I grew up in a church setting. Obviously, I was playing more like the Hillsong, praise Jesus type stuff when I was growing up. But how, as far as the church stuff, how old were you when you got started at playing in the church?
Officially at about like 10, but started getting involved around 8, but definitely officially like around 10 for sure.
And were you practicing at this point, like practicing, like outside of church? Were you practicing before you like stepped on the stage on Sunday services?
Yeah, absolutely. So my parents bought me like a junior just drum set, I think it was even just called a rhythm drum set. And I was just practicing a whole lot. I just wanted to play drums on Sundays. So um, yeah, lots of practice and watching a whole bunch of drum videos like Common Ground, Dennis Chambers, and Tony Royster and all of that, and just Simon Phillips, just a ton of different drummers, and trying to emulate what they did on the VHS tapes.
Oh yeah, man.
Uh,
Were you taking lessons at all at this point?
I was taking lessons from Jim Thorne. Shout out to him. Learning how to read drum music. So Music Works back home in California was the music shop Music Works, and so they had lessons back in the day.
Oh man. So eventually you played in the church and you obviously get really good. And one of the things is you started having viral success. And this was even before YouTube was around. Um, could you tell us the story of kind of how that happened?
Sure. Basically, around the summertime, June to be specific, Church of God in Christ has what we call a convocation, where all the churches in the jurisdiction come together and basically have like a week long convention with services and all that kind of stuff. So we were in rehearsal, and while we were in rehearsal, shout out to Gerald Forrest. He's the head of Gospel Chops. He asked me like, "Hey man, would you mind, giving us a little tutorial and, sharing some stuff with other musicians around the world?" And I was like, "Sure." And I didn't know how big it would go, but apparently after we recorded it, Gerald came back to me and was like, "Hey man, your video got like 200,000 views." I'm like, I didn't understand what that meant in 2005. So I'm like, 200,000 views. Like, okay. He was like, yeah, people from New Zealand and all over the world is, chiming in and watching and commenting. I was like, oh, wow. So the Gospel Chops platform was like just before YouTube started to really get its groove. But that was crazy.
Yeah, and that was 2005 before I think YouTube was 2008 when it started. I mean, that's wild that you were able to find that amount of reach before YouTube came around, especially with video content.
Yeah, for sure. It was such a unheard of. Like I said, I didn't know what that meant until a couple of years later. Like, oh snap, that's like a lot. Like that's so it was dope.
Now, when that happened, did that set a spark in your head for making content? Like, oh, I need to make content in the video sense, even though it was before YouTube and before I mean, now if you're a musician, you almost have to have content out because in order to get recognized. But did that in your head flip a switch as far as like I need to start making content now?
Actually, I was in that space. I was still trying to get recognition from just playing around the local area, playing in Oakland, San Francisco, and all of that back in the Bay Area. So at that time, content wasn't my focus, but the seed was definitely planted for sure for the of course the years to come.
And so with that, you you obviously, I think one of the things I really love about your work is that um a lot of people make great beats, but I think you also make incredible content with with your music. Like the videos are edited incredibly well. The shot selection is really good. The timing is really good. I can tell you or whoever edits your videos puts a lot of time into that. Now, as far as your learning to make content process, was that something that um, was that something that you were able to develop over time, or is that something that came along later in college? Like obviously YouTube comes out 2008, and there were some musicians early on that platform, um, but you really didn't pop off until about 2020. So were you making more? Were you learning how to make content in that period as well? Like were you practicing with content? Were you like, oh, you start seeing I mean, like we talked about like Dennis Chambers videos. I remember when those were out, and oh, who's the one who just passed away? Aaron Spears videos. Yeah, rest in peace. So I remember those kind of guys. But even when YouTube first started coming out, were you making content, and how were you what was your, I guess, your workflow? Because you obviously the stuff you make now is on the money. I mean, I think it's some of the best in the game, but making, I guess my question is, how did your content evolve in that process?
Yeah, for sure. So, like I said, the seed was planted in '05. I got to see what it was like to be on camera and do something on the camera. So that seed was like basically deep, deep underground, and it really didn't start to manifest until 2000 and about 9 or 8 or so. And I decided to get my MacBook Pro 2008, 2 gig of RAM, and
Wow.
it had like a seven, not even a 720p, probably like a 480p front facing camera. And so my guy Matt Garska, phenomenal drummer, he's huge now. We went to Berklee together. He was the first person I saw set up the MacBook and actually record something. And I was like, okay, I think I could do that with my joint, because all had the same MacBooks from Berklee. So that's how I got my start. And so then he put me on recording the audio and the video at the same time. So he had like a Tascam audio recorder, and then he had his MacBook capturing the video, and then he would sync them up in iMovie after the fact. And so that's how I got hip to clean audio instead of using the camera audio. So that's where it all got started in 2008 or 9. So then I posted a couple of jams of me on YouTube on a friends of mine account. I had no idea they were going to get tons of views. I was just like, just wanted to have fun. So I kind of got my start like that. And then officially in 2010, I made my own YouTube channel. And then that's when I started posting a lot more gospel kind of clips and shout videos, as we would say in church, praise break kind of videos. I started posting that because I saw that was getting a lot of traction at that point. So I started doing that sort of thing. And then fast forward to now, that's when I really got into, in 2020, that's when I got into a DSLR camera and learned on YouTube University how to use a camera and use the same tactics that I was doing before, but just with a higher quality on the visual side. And so then to wrap this all up, I got hip to shout out to my homegirl, Sabrina Sideman. She goes by Side. She's a killer on Logic Pro tutorials and just learning how to use gear. She really wants to help people. But I got hip to her fast-paced TikTok style with fast clips, just, I mean, jump cut to jump cut. And shout out to my boy Rob Late, who's more so on the production side, that is super phenomenal with pop electronic infused music in Ableton. And same thing, he had a lot of fast cuts. So I combined everything I learned through the years, from syncing up the audio to video all the way to a TikTok style fast chops. And that's how I pretty much combine all that together.
What is your content creation process like now? And the reason I ask is there's a lot of different ways to do it. There are some people who, while they're creating the video, they've got the camera on and I mean, there's people even who like live stream it and then will cut it down to a clip. There's also other people who will make the whole beat and the song first, and then kind of mime to it, and then they'll edit it along. What is your and that's fine. Like if you can do the stuff and it looks good, no judgment here, right? There are some people are purists, but what is your process for creating content now, especially the videos where you're playing and you have all the cuts and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm definitely miming to it, hands down, just because it makes the whole process easier because I don't have to worry about simultaneous things where I'm actually recording in real time audio and real time visual. So that's two different levels of accuracy that you need to have. So that's time consuming. So I started like that for sure. Like there are some clips on my Earth, Wind and Fire joint. That's all real time. I can't reenact that because it was all instantaneous and I was recording that for release actually. So, but outside of that, my typical workflow is do all the beats long before, like all the vibes I come up with, I do them like weeks in advance. And then I decide, okay, what song can I release or what do I want to do for free to add value to people? And then basically uh, just mime to everything. And that allows me to get these different jump cuts to go to like all these different angles. However, even though I'm miming, I'm still about 89% accurate of what I'm physically playing on screen. It's still accurate. I'm not like playing a C and then I'm hitting a G. Like it's not that far out at all. So yeah.
And then what is your editing process? Like are you using Premiere Pro? Are you using CapCut? What are you using right now?
So I upgraded to Final Cut in 2020, I believe. Shout out to my boy John Mike. He kind of got me hip to the Final Cut game, taught me like the very essentials, like the very basics from a YouTube standpoint. And then I took that and then I learned all these other modern features. So multicam and being able to control my different angles on have a hotkey for each angle that I recorded. And then I'm basically like performing the jump cuts in on beat and just, almost like it's another instrument.
Do you have a board for that?
I just use the keys on my laptop. So the angles, yeah, the angles, I usually do no more than about 6 angles. So they're assigned to the numeric keypad. So it's going to be 1 through 6. And then I can just do it like that.
Oh wow, that's really cool. I've never thought to do it like that.
Yeah, it's fun. That's I got that concept from Jonathan Morrison, from a YouTube standpoint. And they do a lot of camera switching. So they just put it on a numeric pad. I was like, that just took like hours out of my editing time. So yeah.
And then are you doing that when you are like live streaming as well? Are you using that six camera approach or the keypad approach for that as well?
So for when I live stream, I use Ecamm, and then I only have 2 angles. I would like to have 3, but unfortunately, with I would have to go to like an ATEM or something like that to plug the cameras into that source first before it gets to Ecamm because it just overloads and I end up with a lot of drop. Uh, yeah, just a lot of drop milliseconds and stuff like that. It'll just kind of look like I'm glitching out a little bit, and I prefer more of a smooth, natural SD card kind of flow. So I ended up just doing just 2 cameras. So I have a top down and a head on, which is this one. So
And then how important would you say the content side of your career has been? Like obviously it's huge, but you have great songs and there's a lot, and the reason I'm asking this is there's a lot of people who have great music, but you have a marriage of great content and great songs. Do you think that has given you a do you think that has made a bigger impact on your music by having the great content with the great music?
yes, 1,000%. I've been recording professional records since 2012. Some of them got a lot of recognition locally, and then some of them got a bit more recognition as I got placements. But what I noticed was the records that I was doing locally didn't really blow up too much. They made some noise for sure, but they didn't get to like the astronomical, like I can't believe this kind of vibes. So, and that was because of marketing. And I learned that years later, like in 2021 and 22, I'm like, oh, you actually got to get the stuff out there. Like, a lot of, and myself included, thought, I can speak for myself. I thought that as soon as you made the product, people would come to the product. And I learned very quickly that that's not always the case, with word of mouth traveling to the right person that will ultimately lead to some type of gatekeeper, if you will, or whatever. And then they put you on. So that just wasn't my story. But once I started making content myself and showcasing the music that I've been doing for years, same style, but just packaged with today's technology, I noticed a great leap of growth, almost instantly. It feels like, but it was definitely a journey. But I felt like a lot of the music really pushed through once I started adding content.
And one of the things I love about your content as well is that you aren't doing it in a salesman-y kind of way. Like you aren't saying I've never seen you make a post. I mean, I went pretty far on your page. I've never seen you make a post be like, "Hey guys, new song out now." You are entertaining with your content. How does one do that without coming off? How does one promote their music without coming off as salesman-like and corny? Because that's a big problem a lot of people have. They don't know how to entertain.
For sure. And I think you just nailed it right there, is learning how to entertain. We're entertained more than we know, subconsciously. If you're sharing videos with a friend because it's funny, you got to take a step back and say, wait a minute, why did I share this? Why did I take the time to share this with a friend? And how many thousands of people have done that with a piece of entertaining content? So now you have to reverse engineer that and say, okay, how can I make content that people are dying to share because they're like, yo, you gotta see this. And if you don't have that type of sense of urgency before you hit the record button, then no one is going to have that same urgency. So I had to take, really honestly, I had to take about a year off from just music altogether and just learn business. And 2020 and 2021 was like top of 21 was like the year and a half that I personally needed to learn marketing, sales, pain points, value, all these sort of things. And so I was able to package that into performance videos and put on a mini concert for people every week. Give them 30 seconds of a nice vibe and give them 30 seconds of a song they already have known for years, but it's reintroduced with some new, shall I say, a more modern lens on or take on a hit song. And what I noticed was people were almost dang near stressing me out to release it because I'm like, I don't have the rights to this stuff. Like I don't want to get in trouble, but at the same time, I do want you to be happy. But so the breakout moment for me was definitely the Earth, Wind, and Fire cover. And we can talk more about that in detail. But that was just that moment of me learning, hey, you got to provide value first, free up front, just like any other business. They give you a free trial, free sample, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah.
So this year that you took off, year and a half, you took off to learn the business marketing. What kind of things were you doing to learn?
For sure. I was sitting up under my guy who I'm still close with, John Mike. Shout out to him. He's really a guru with just the fundamentals of, hey, you need a mailing list. You need to provide value for people and be able to turn that value into some form of an offer at some point. And the first thing he got me hip to was I was just finishing up a tutorial teaching people how to do stuff. And that's also a really good strategy if you want people to get into you, is teach them how to do things. Um, and I taught people how to mix vocals because I'm like, yo, I want to give you guys a more modern approach on YouTube of how to mix vocals using stock plugins and Logic Pro specifically. From that, it was like, yo, take that mix that you just did, save it and sell it. And so I was like, yo, okay. So that opened my eyes up to like sales and learn the synergy between the more you give, the more you receive. It's a whole nother conversation. But so I had to like walk it out in real time instead of just sitting down and taking a master class. I had to walk it out in real time. Okay, let's throw this next product up. I'm going to teach you how to mix drums. And then, hey, if you don't want to take the time to learn how to mix drums, here's a template for you that you can use to help you get a more polished sound faster, so you're not starting from scratch. So a lot of the things that I learned, I just had to repetition and just walk it out and learn how to build a trust between myself and the community.
And yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable how strong your community is. Like any clip you post on, whether it's YouTube, whether that's Instagram or TikTok, I mean, there's just legions of fans who are excited about what you're doing. And I really feel like, have you ever heard of the concept of 1,000 true fans by Kevin Kelly?
Yes. Yes.
I think you are really a living embodiment of that, because you're not like, I think people obviously know you, but if they're on TikTok or Instagram, but I don't feel like if you were to walk around wherever you live, that you would. I don't know if I don't think people are stopping you on the street all the time. Maybe every once in a while, but you still are making a living making music.
Yeah. And we could definitely touch more on that specifically because it just shifted as of last year. But yes, to your point, I know exactly what you're saying. And that was definitely my 2021 and early 2022. I could, just walk around and but yet be, like you just said, successful. But that definitely changed. But yes, to your point, yes.
Well, how has it changed? Let's go into that. I'd love to.
So now people are actually recognizing me when I'm out, especially with me now residing in Atlanta, is ironically the city of my top listeners on Spotify. They are the number one consumer. And even in some of my YouTube content, they're my number one consumer. So now I get stopped if I go to somewhere in downtown, or if I go to like Target, and even in my local area, I'll get stopped. And crazy story, long story short, my wife and I, my daughter, we were just leaving Target in our local area, and two guys, they were driving. They came pulling up on us. I'm like, yo, y'all might want to get in the car. And so they pulled up and they stopped and they were like, yo, are you Hunter? I was like, yeah. So he reached in the glove compartment. I'm like, where are we going now? And he pulls out a piece of paper and a pen, and he's like, can we get your autograph? And I was like, oh snap. And they were like dead serious. It was like, no, we follow you, man. We've been following you for a minute. So now, yeah, it's a little bit different. And when I got back from NAMM, literally like 2 weeks ago, in the airport, I got stopped at the airport. Somebody was like, yeah, are you Yaahn? I was like, yeah, yeah. And it was like, yo, I mess with your music, bro. It's hard. I was like, yo, I appreciate it. So it's starting to shift a little bit now for sure.
Hey, everybody. I hope you are enjoying this podcast with Yaahn Hunter Jr. I just want to let you guys know that subscribers, views, all that stuff, it does matter when it comes to making great content. If you guys have enjoyed anything you've heard so far, you've learned something, you've learned part of the game, you just enjoy Yaahn, you just want to know how I do my hair, I would really appreciate it if you guys could hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I promise you we're going to upload something every week, and you're going to be able to be one of the first people to hear it when it comes out. We have a lot of great podcast guests coming on later this year, including some big heavy hitter names, and I just want to make sure that you guys are the first to hear about it. And it makes a huge difference when people do subscribe. And obviously one of the things is when we're able to pitch to guests, it's really great to have those numbers where you can say like, oh, this many people viewed this clip, or this many people are subscribed, this is our viewer count. Those things make a huge difference when you are trying to get people on the podcast, and I want to have really great people on the podcast. I can give you a list of all the people I want to have on my podcast, and unfortunately, if we're not able to have the high quality numbers that a podcast needs in order to attract these guests aren't going to come on. So if you guys could do me a favor, if you guys could like this video and subscribe and hit that notification bell, it means the world to us, and that's how we're going to get bigger and better guests, and that's going to be more great information for you down the road. So thank you guys, and hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. One of the things I'm fascinated about is you were really pigeonholed into the gospel praise breaks scene in music, and that's one of the big things I hear a lot of people when they make TikToks or they make Instagram is they're going, I don't want to be trapped in one gimmick and then stuck there. Not only did you break free of this, but you found even more success by going into the chill vibe stuff and your content that you make now. How did you break free of that pigeonhole in the gospel praise breaks? And how did you develop a second life as the chill vibes producer?
That's a really good question. It took years, honestly, to figure it out. It took a long time because I was trying to do everything to please everybody. Because in 2020, that was like, okay, I don't need to make any enemies in this season. I need to, cater to every demographic, just as a babe in the business. And then I started to realize the more you try to cater to everybody, the more you're going to cater to no one, and you're not going to have an identity. And so my style has always been chill and R&B and hip hop through the years. That's why I started getting into production in the first place, was to make these Dilla-esque kind of beats and put my own musicality on top of it. So what I showcased wasn't really the heart of my true native position as a producer, if you will. I learned that style over time to be compatible in the church scene, being in Church of God in Christ. So I learned a lot of the style, but my native position has always been like very chill, relaxed R&B minor 7 kind of chords like these. That was the first chord I learned. The first chords I learned was It's Love by Jill Scott. And that's just like a series of just minor 7 back to back in like a sequence of a minor third. And so I took those chords, learned them in every key. Then I started sounding very R&B out the gate, because those minor 7s are like very smooth. And especially if you play them like going down the circle of fifths, it sounds very Earth, Wind and Fire and Jill Scott Floetry and Music Soul Child. Like that was just where they resonated. Kim, smooth R&B. So I was like, okay, to kind of sum this all up, I need to really make the music that I'm honest about and be vulnerable, but be bold and vulnerable at the same time. And that was definitely in like 2021 for sure. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do the music that I've been dreaming to make as a kid, and divorce myself mentally from not my faith, but divorce myself from the expectations that were put on me, that they were not even my calling or my anything. So I started making honest music, the music that I've been dreaming to make as a kid, and it just resonated with people during that time, during the pandemic. Everyone is at home studying, so they need more relaxing music. And it was just a perfect marriage of, here's what I've been doing for years, and now here's the time to do it. And it just coincided. So that's what it ended up getting widely recognized. So, yeah.
And so it was a cold stop. Like you just made the decision to stop doing the church stuff, and then you were going to do the chill vibe stuff. There was no transitional period, nothing like that. You just cold stopped.
Yeah.
Were you worried that your gospel fans were going to turn on you at all or anything like that?
I knew that I was going to take a hit at engagement. So I wasn't worried about what they would think. At that point, I wasn't worried at all. I was worried before, which is why I stayed doing it for so long. But at that point, I was ready to like, okay, we're doing good in sales, so we're making good money on this side. And apparently there's an audience that likes this stuff. So I went full force into it and I couldn't look to the left or to the right. I just had to get centered and that's what made a difference.
So you create a lot of music. I mean, from your content, from your Spotify. I mean, you pump out a lot of music. How do you choose which projects to finish, and how many project songs are you working on at a time?
That's good. I choose the songs that do well on socials. So I'll throw a bunch of vibes. Like my strategy definitely in 2022 was okay, here's the strategy. Let's throw out a bunch of free vibes. Let's see what it does. Let's see how people respond to it. And about for every 5 tracks that I would throw up, 2 of them would go viral. So I was like, okay, these are the songs that we need to release. Let's put out the songs that people want. And it sort of became this synergy between me and the community and my community. Like, oh, you like that song? Put it out. And I just kept doing that over and over. And hence the catalog growing. We just kept the synergy through the years. And now here we are. So about how many vibes I do. So about like they vary. Sometimes I'm really, really, really inspired by being out here in Atlanta, seeing all the trees and the beautiful sun and stuff, and it just gets me into space. And I'm like, yo, I'm really feeling this. So I'll create something and I'll post it the same day, like right after I made it. And those would be a lot of the vibes that went viral because it was so fresh. Like they just felt, I felt like they felt the same thing I felt when I made it, when I put it out right away. So that was a lot of the case in 2022, but after definitely way more calculated, like, okay, let's make 10 vibes over the course of like 2 weeks. And then let's pick one and see, well, based on how this one did, I think they would like this and kind of play my own algorithm, if you will, and see if this one is in the up next kind of vibe and they'll rock with it. And so that's kind of my strategy now.
And so it almost sounds like you beta test your beats before you release them. Um, do you so you find that to be an effective strategy?
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. And Instagram likes it. They like original audio. They really, really like original stuff. Like if I tried to release it ahead of time and then use the provided audio version from Instagram, I'll notice I didn't get as much engagement because the algorithm hasn't picked up that sound, as they call it, or audio as a trending piece of audio. So if it's not trending, then they're not going to push it. So I tried that and it didn't go too well. So I went right back to, okay, let's just give them sneak peeks and previews first. And then a few of those go viral, then we know for sure we got a guaranteed release.
And is there a way that you're guiding people from the Instagram or TikToks into Spotify or Apple Music or wherever people are streaming? Because one of the problems we found with a lot of artists we've worked with is they will have a viral sound or they will have a viral piece of content, but then getting them to go from YouTube, or excuse me, not YouTube, but going from TikTok, Instagram to Spotify is a bit of a leap that a lot of people are not willing to make. Do you have any strategies for getting people to streaming platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. If you take the strategy that I've done, which is you do a lot of stuff for free and just keep the party going, you have a certain level of trust with your community of listeners. It's you sort of get a little flash pass, like a hall pass. Say, hey, just that's when you could do the hey, it's out now. You've earned it because your sound before it was released got somebody 2 million views. So if you go back and say, hey, this is out, they're more inclined to, okay, where is it? And then that's when you can tell them available on all streaming platforms, link in bio. A pro tip would be is to get something, get like different aggregates that will allow you to have a trigger word. So you can say, hey, everybody comment vibes. And then when they comment that, they get a DM that sends them to the link to wherever you want them to go. So stuff like that. It's helpful.
Dang, that's really smart. I like that. That's a really good tip. That's some real good game right there.
Yeah, for sure.
So now, when you are creating beats, do you start from scratch, or do you have sketches or ideas, or what is your game plan when you're creating beats?
The game plan is to it sounds so whack, but like to catch the most extreme vibe as possible. It sounds whack, but what I mean is something that I connect to emotionally and physically that has me like when I'm listening to it, I'm like, woo! Like, yeah, if I believe it and I feel that like deep in my soul, then I know when I release it, people are gonna feel the same thing. Even if it's not their particular style, they can still feel your authenticity through the screen. And that's where the visuals comes in 1,000%. Cause now they can see and make that eye connection with you on the video. So, but definitely like my process is for sure try to capture something as fast as my mind is processing it. Um, Before I would have to maybe get like a loop or maybe go to output or get like a little something to get the ball going. But now I'm actually hearing full complete vibes in my head like, okay, now how fast can I get this out? And that's a whole new set of problems because it's like the train is moving and you got to jump on it immediately or else it's gone. So yeah.
Yeah, I 100% relate to that. Like, so obviously I'm not making chill vibes. I make kind of garage rock songs in my solo career. But again, I've been making music so long now that I can hear the full production in my head, and I can even hear like EQ, like you can hear it in your head, and you're just like, that's gonna work. And it's one of those things. I've gone to the studio sessions with other people, and I'm like, I'm hearing this, and it's gonna work. And if you set it to these parameters and this tone, and people are like, they freak out because they're like, how do you do it? And it's like, well, that's all I think about 24/7 is
Exactly.
these vibes. So that's awesome. I've always thought I was a crazy person, so it's good to hear someone else kind of verify that I'm not alone.
Oh, most definitely, man. Repetition brings certain side effects, so that's one of the major side effects is eventually you'll begin to hear thing almost in its totality before it's even created.
Absolutely. So lo-fi chill beats has become a really crowded field in the last 5 to 7 years. Obviously, you have the content, you have That's Hunter, you have your tag that differentiates you from a lot of your contemporaries. Is there anything else you do to build your brand or to stand out in that crowded field?
Yeah, I present more modern music. Lo-fi is more abstract, atmospheric, chill kind of things where I'm more so centered to like I'm not that far up in the clouds. Like I'm a little bit more closer to the ground. So I'm gonna throw some uh modern songs like Someday We'll All Be Free. That's one of my joints that's going viral right now at the time of this recording on Instagram. Donny Hathaway. I'll throw that at you and put a chill perspective on it. I think that's what sets me apart is I take the space it puts you in and apply that to a common song or more commercialized sort of sound, if you will, between, and I kind of blur the lines between hardcore, boom bap, and R&B, and then there's me, like right in between there. So,
Yeah, you've definitely carved out a lane for yourself, that's for sure. So, as someone who's had multiple viral sounds on TikTok, I mean, and it's just, it's just crazy how many people have used your sounds, have, even we just last week Kylie Jenner used your sound. I mean, which is just, I think she's number 5 on the most followed people on Instagram. Like, it's just
yeah,
insane. And so, but the thing is, you've been able to replicate this viral success over and over and over again. So, and that's not even with your content. That's other people using your content.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
do you think there is an anatomy of a viral sound?
Yes. Popular music, and I was just telling a few people about this. You can crack the code, and the code is what music has survived over the last 50 to 60 years. Then we end up somehow or another. Michael Jackson ends up in the conversation. Somehow or another, Prince ends up in the conversation. Uh, Somehow or another, Celine Dion ends up in the conversation. These iconic artists that have shaped our ears, and these big bands and stuff, they all had one thing in common, which was a solid groove, solid chord progression, and a melody and a bass line. And they, even if it was more contemporary and even, let's say, a ballad like Human Nature by Michael Jackson, even if it's a ballad, what people don't realize is music has a lot of power. Chord progressions and good melodies have so much power to them where you don't even need any lyrics over it. It just, if it's compiled in a way that is relaxing, calm, or even makes you want to dance and party, funk music, um, you tap into that. The blueprint has already been laid a long time ago. So all I'm doing is following the template that was set up, and then I can use the more trap sounds. Ooh, I'll grab this 808 instead of a bass. Ooh, I'll grab this keyboard weird sound instead of a piano, but it's the same chord progression and ingredients. So I'm literally just following the footsteps of all the great artists that were, so popular before us.
So, you have tried to use the elements that you have learned over and over again to create viral songs.
Yes, for sure.
Are you aiming to make viral sounds when you are making like chill vibes?
I would be lying if I said no now, for sure. So, I mean, it's like, yeah, shoot for what is the saying? What, shoot for the moon, but if you land on the stars or something like that, that's fine, something like that. So I always try to anticipate things picking up pretty quickly. And then there's some times where I just make something for myself where it's like, all right, I give so much free value. It's like, all right, let's make something more selfish. And ironically, the selfish content ends up going viral sometimes. And I'm like, all right, man, like we gotta, let's try to figure this out where I'm not trying to troll people in a negative connotation of like, hey, I'm just using you guys. But I am trolling because I'm more so trolling because my community loves the music that I love. And there's this dialogue. So it's like, I know if I throw uh, a popular song in front of you and I put my spin on it, we're having a conversation. It's like, remember this song? Remember how it made you feel? And my barber back home, her name is Michelle. Shout out to her. Um, her barbershop is called, one of the key words in her shop is called nostalgic. And so she always played hits, like just retro hits all the time. And she was just like, why do I need to wait for a 90s party or a 80s theme this to put on, these iconic songs, MC Hammer or something like that? Like, I don't need an event. I just listen to it all the time. And it gets you happier, or you feel like, I don't know, you just feel more like velvety and, melancholy sometimes. So when you plug that in where we have so much color, commercialized, saturated trap music, and I'm here for trap as well.
Right.
I'm here
We
for
in
it.
the ATL, baby.
Yeah, yeah, I'm here for it. Like, it's a good groove, and 808s will still send me over. I'm not knocking it, but what I'm saying is it's a disruption into the traffic where you throw this at them. And it's like, oh, girl, I remember when I was listening to that back in 1986, girl, that was my song, so that kind of effect.
Yeah, and I think the perfect example of this is your recent remix of Michael Jackson's "Wanna Be Starting Something." I mean, and it was great because I went through the Instagram comments, and yeah, people were doing that. They were like, "Oh, this brings me back. This is a fresh spin on this. This is," and it's kind of not only are people commenting on the remix itself, but they're commenting on the feelings and, oh, how great Michael is. Now there are some people who were like, ah, Michael's this and that, and there's always going to be some of that, but yeah, it's fascinating how you just tapped into that by using the remix as a way to um, engage the culture in a sense, right? Like, I mean, that's what you did.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's the main thing is starting conversations. We cannot do this podcast without me mentioning the Pocket Queen. Like that's just she is the embodiment of everything we're talking about. Like just times 1,000. So there's a lot of synergy. We go way back. And we can dive more into that, of course, later if you need to. But we just have a lot of synergy creatively and musically. And what I've seen her do over the last 15 years online is insane. And I saw a pattern. And so she figured it out. And so now I'm just, we're in our kind of similar lane, but very different lanes simultaneously. And I'm basically applying a lot of what she figured out now in today's TikTok and Instagram.
Yeah, so it's I think you are using a lot of the same content techniques that she's doing, but the music is different. But the mechanical content ideas like
Yes.
are very similar, 100%.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
she's amazing. I definitely would love to get her on the podcast at some point because her stuff is just, I mean, it's just you watch her play the drums and it just like it's just so mind blowing. Like she doesn't even look like she's trying, man. And
Not at
it's the
all.
funkiest thing you've ever heard. I really do. She's one of my favorite content creators for sure.
Yeah, likewise. That's my sister for life. Shout out to you, sis. Like much love and respect. You doing your thing.
That's awesome. Um, so one of the things I really love that you've hit on so much is you kind of, especially these obviously the music too, but the the social media side of things, the content side of things, the business side of things, you kind of have a copy the mechanics and make it your own approach. And do you feel that is something that has helped you as an artist? Like, because obviously, I mean, there's a really great quote I love, which is that success leaves clues.
Ah, that's
And
so good.
it is. And so I feel like that you are really good at finding those clues and, for lack of a better term, exploiting them for your gain, right? Like you are, is that something that you have been able to? I mean, I think a lot of people, they have just a giant ego when it comes to this stuff, and that's why they don't have success. How have you been able to stop? I guess how have you been able to? How do you take ideas from other people and use them in your own? Are you very methodical about how you're doing it? Are you watching people and taking notes? Are you taking
Yeah,
mental notes? How are you doing that?
for sure. Study great people and walk out what great people do and you will be great. And so I've been surrounded around so many powerhouses, even just from a musical style outside of content. You know, your Eric Moores, Thomas Pridgeons, phenomenal drummers, like world renowned drummers. Matt Garska, phenomenal drummer. Um, some of my homies back home that play keys, like my brother Kellen Young and Nehemiah Johnson, my big cuz, and just a slew of just epic musicians. Dave Jackson, Devin Watkins in the gospel circuit. Like they did things that were like unthinkable. Like, and I consumed that every week, every weekend. Um, so when you're around that, you emulate that level of greatness. And so same thing with content. I started studying the Pocket Queen, Sabrina, Rob Late. Um, those are like the top three content creators that stood out to me in the music space that figured out or carved a way for themselves in a unique way. And so I had no choice but to figure out the mechanics, but I knew their flat out formula wouldn't work for me. I tried it. I tried all of them and they didn't work. And so I'll never forget the this conversation with Rob that I had. And he was so sure of himself. Like he just and he still is. And we had this long conversation, but long story short, I knew what I had to do, but I didn't want to put in the work to do it. And I was like, bro, like, how long does it take you to do what you do? He's like, for me to do one video, 1 week, because it's just so much in the production of it. And so I was like, it was that realization of like, dude, you have to put in the work, bro. Like, there's no way around it. So I told him, I was like, bro, I'm gonna have to like record myself playing the drums, record myself playing the keys, and do. He's like, whatever it takes. And so that was that defining moment of like, okay, I can't be Rob, I can't be the Pocket Queen, I can't be Sabrina. And here's this wide open lane of performing chill music with like very rich value in the music side of it. And eventually the visual side kind of stepped up over time. But specifically, just this rich music finally had a platform, and that worked for me. So everyone in this space is going to have to figure out their own aha moment of like, okay, they did this, but I need to do this.
That's awesome. I think that's a real key to success is just finding those people and then learning and then figuring out how to make it your own, and you did, and you have to put the work in.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think a lot of people don't understand, especially when you are deep in the content game, like people like you and Pocket Queen are, how long it takes to make a good piece of content. And it's one of those things, and there's other content creators like Mr. Beast and other people who've said that like people recognize when there is value in the content and people have put their best foot forward. And anytime you can step up your production and your editing skills, it's something that's going to pay off in massive dividends. And I think it's 100% true. If you don't put the work in, it's never going to work out.
Unfortunately. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Hey everybody, Rhynestone Productions is one of the greatest things in the world because now every musician in the world has access to high quality curated musicians. And it's unbelievable. We've been able to help artists just absolutely blossom and transform, have their visions realized by having our virtual studio process. So what does that entail? Well, it entails that you're going to work with a world-class producer, you're going to get world-class musicians, and you're going to get high-quality mixing and mastering services. And when you work with us in our process and the way that we develop things, you're going to get two really important aspects that are going to be defined in your music. The first one is that you're going to have your artistic vision represented at the fullest, most passionate, most descriptive level. And the second thing that's going to happen to you is that you are going to have a commercially viable product that will help you land on playlists, will help you get sync deals, will help you get your name out there in a way that's positive, that people will associate your name with positive music. And it really is amazing what can truly happen when you are able to put yourself out there. And Rhynestone has been doing this for artists over and over and over again. And it's one of the things that really just makes me truly happy. And I love doing it. I love seeing artists bloom. I love using our musicians because they're just so good and they're so talented. And in all honesty, things have just been getting better and better and better with Rhynestone. So if you're ready to take your music to the next level, I would love you guys if you could email me at rhynestonemusic@gmail.com. That's Rhynestone, RHYNESTONE, music, MUSIC @gmail.com. And if you're ready to take that music to the next level, hit us up there and enjoy the rest of the podcast. So you have a lot of different revenue streams from your revenue sources from your music. So you've got streams, you've got endorsements, you've got a very successful YouTube channel, MIDI packs, gear endorsements, all sorts of things like that. Are there any streams that you feel are overrated or underrated in your musical journey?
That's good. The overrated stream that's a hard one, but I could start with underrated. Underrated stream of income is packs, your own sound packs. I think that's very underrated from a independent standpoint. People wait for a Splice or Native Instruments or the Arturia to hit them up and do a pack for them. But instead of doing your own, just set up a Shopify for like $30 a month. All you got to do is sell one unit for $30 in your Shopify plan is paid for, locked in. So I think underrated is packs, because even with this new Akai release with the MPC, a lot of people bought my drum kit that I used in the video because it was available. I told them, hey, if you're interested, you can get my chill hop kit, and people bought it. And I wasn't expecting that, but people got so much value from the presentation where it's like, even if I don't use them, I just want to support. So packs are underrated. But the overrated stuff, I would definitely say like a traditional label standpoint. Now, when it works, it works. Like when you sign a good deal and you're bringing value to the label and you already had a good thing going even beforehand. Yeah, like you're gonna make some shmoney. I get it. But I think that's more of the overrated approach, is waiting for a revenue stream of a conglomerate to put you on and give you your just due. I think that's overrated.
Yeah, especially in Atlanta, man. It feels like half every town has a record deal and it's going nowhere, you know? We could talk off camera about that. I'm sure we got some stories.
Yeah, for sure.
So how are you able to manage all of these revenue streams? Because it's one thing to set them up, it's one thing to promote them, but it's a whole nother thing to like manage where the money's coming from, where things are going, where things are at. Are you using any sort of like help with this, outside help? Are you managing it all yourself? Are you building a team? How are you handling all of this stuff? Because it's a lot, and I don't think people realize. They think, people think they're handing you an Akai MPC key 37 and that's it. They don't understand all the background stuff and logistics. So is it a team that helps you out, or are you doing it all yourself?
So all myself currently, as far as that goes, I do have brand management, but it's getting ready to shift. Not to give too much of the personal business, but I'll just say that that's going to shift into more help for sure. But currently, I have a brand manager, and then I'm handling all the financials myself. But it makes it easier to think of it as one cohesive funnel, instead of it being like I have this thing over here and this over here, and then they're just no, align them all in a straight line funnel. That's just how I see it. So brand deals that all funnels through PayPal. All of my stuff goes through PayPal. Um, you can use whatever platform you want. You can do direct deposit, however you want to do it. But if you have everything coming through just a PayPal, then you can start to streamline and see like, okay, this is coming from there, blah, blah, blah. But having my sales people they get angry about it. Some do, not everybody, but some people get angry about why I don't offer credit card payments, but I exclusively use PayPal. The reason why is because for tax reasons, it's very easy to simplify all of your income that is funneled through one place. Everything that I just mentioned earlier, brand deals, sales, TuneCore, DistroKit stuff. Like if you funnel it all through one bucket as far as like where it comes in, and then you can decide to disperse it, to your bank account, however you want to do it, that's up to you. But if you just have a funnel of where everything ends up, like this bucket, then you'll start to get more, you'll start to incentivize certain things like, hey, yeah, I can plug in a pack here. I can plug in an affiliate link here, because it's all coming to this payment place. So yeah.
So obviously you are a full-time musician. You've got all sorts of revenue streams. You're on the business side of things. How are you managing your time?
That's good. So time management is, I know I have to get, like, I feel like I got to move the world around and back from 8:30 to 5:30. That's my window. After that, I'm a father. I'm a husband first, and then I'm a father. So after 5:30, that's it. So it's like anything that goes down, that forces me to like, okay, now if you know you got to record content, how many hours in editing, you got to be on your stuff. So I start setting up systems. So same thing. So it's like I use the same software. I use the same file transfer system. I use the same uh, external drive if I'm going from computer to computer. Some type of system where everything remains the same. I have two computers. I have my MacBook. Then I have a Mac Studio. They have the same software on them, on the same operating system, the same way. They're literally identical computers. Whatever happens on one, I make sure it happens on the other. And so when you have systems, you get faster and you start to learn yourself. And I know now, if I want to do a video, okay, I need to make sure the beat is done prior. So let's say the night before. I know come 8:30 when I'm down here, first thing I'm doing is hitting the record button because the previous night or at 5:30 the previous day, I already set everything up. So next day I just come in, boom, record, we're ready to roll. So just set up systems.
What would you say are the most effective systems that you have right now?
Most effective would definitely be um, the multicam feature in editing for my performance videos. That system is crazy. Uh, I do sacrifice a little bit of time because of the SD card, but even if we get into the more YouTube stuff that I was doing in top of 2023, that system was the best system. I had to sacrifice a little bit of quality. I went from 4K to 1080p. But what that did was I had a system where I recorded all of my videos in Ecamm, just record, and I did all of my camera switching on my Stream Deck. And so what that did was I basically edited the whole video while I shot it. And all I had to do is just chop one file down to 10 minutes and hit upload. That system is you cannot beat that system. And someone else can come in after you and duplicate the same thing. Be like, hey, everything's already done. All you got to do is just get this down to 10 minutes. Here's the key points. Boom, boom, boom. Chop, upload, chop, upload. I was doing 2 to 3 videos a week nonstop from January all the way to uh, uh, June of 2023, nonstop, two videos a week. And that system is bulletproof. That's the same system that the big guys use. They take one piece of content and reformat it 20 different ways. So yeah.
And how many cameras do you have right now when you're shooting content?
So for my Instagram videos, it's one cam, A6400 with a 16 millimeter Sigma lens. For YouTube, it's the same one, but it's head on, the one we're on right now. Here's the other one. So I got two of these, same camera. This is a different lens. This is an 18 mil to 135 stock kit lens. Then I have a ZV-1 up there on the top on the little bar.
That's the bird's eye over the camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That's the top down for this type of content. So yeah.
Wow, that's so smart, man. You're really making me rethink how I make content. It's really clever.
Thank you.
So, do you have any regrets on your musical journey, whether that be business or creative?
No, I don't. Surprisingly, you would think, right, after being boxed in for years. But what it set up was the right timing. And so I believe, being a Christian, I believe God just has everything set up in his timing. And, I'm not going to shove this down everyone's throat. But what I can say is this, whether you are atheist or whatever, we can all agree on timing. So it's crazy that the style of music that I love to make ended up being the number one consumed music during the pandemic, and it became the new norm, which is this calm, relaxing, chill vibes, right? So timing. I already was doing this music. I didn't see success in it in 2015 and 2016. I didn't see any success in doing the type of music that I'm doing now because it just wasn't popularized. It was considered underground. You got to search the crates to find that kind of vibe and all of that. So it was just very scarce. But now it's infiltrated even the mainstream industry. Look at Victoria Monet's latest record that she just got a Grammy for. What type of vibes was it? Very interesting. What's her name? Let's see, I can't think of her name. It's not SZA. It's the other artist. But anyway, she got a collab with J. Cole and Summer Walker. Summer Walker's latest record, extremely different from what was done prior. So it's starting to become the norm to have some type of musicality involved. So with all that said, I have no regrets because it just literally prepared me for striking at the right time. So, yeah.
That was an awesome answer. So that wraps up the question section of our interview. I'm going to do a short rapid fire round with you, and then we'll give you a
Okay.
chance to bump some stuff, whatever you want to bump, and then we'll finish this interview. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
What was the last album that blew your mind?
Last album that blew my mind. Let me get over here. The last full blown album that blew my mind, probably I can look right here on my Apple Music, go to recently added, and I'll be able to tell you. Let's see. Definitely a record that I was blessed to be. No, I'll tell you what blew my mind recently. It's a little bit of last year, but We Go Again EP. She's a phenomenal rapper from the UK.
Oh yeah, she's
And she,
great.
and she took over social media for, I think it was 2022, end of 2022 and top of 23, like the springtime. Everybody was using it's called Charge It. Everybody was using that song in every video. But that EP was like, we're back. Like, we're back to full cohesive, short, whatever you want to call it, projects. So yeah, and then of course, so we were already talking about a Victoria Monet's record for sure.
Yeah, I love. Is it Annie? Is that how you say her name? I'm not sure.
I believe it's any.
Yeah, she's great. I love. She's her lyrical ideas are fascinating.
Oh yeah, she's in.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's in touch for sure.
yeah. I found her. I think when she was going viral, and I was like, every song is got layers and inner rhyme schemes and stuff like that, and it's just you don't hear as much of that anymore as you did maybe 10 years ago. And so it was really cool to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Who is an artist that deserves more attention?
My brother Kevin Ross, shout out to him. I've been working with him for a little while, and he needs more attention for sure. Like socially in these more commercial spaces, he's doing his thing. He's working the business. He's very successful. Don't get me wrong. I believe he's got like 1 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Pretty successful. But I mean, front center in your face on these commercials, Grammys, walking the stage when someone is performing, they pan the camera to Kevin. Yeah, for sure.
What does Kevin do?
He does R&B.
Okay. Is he a singer or a performer?
Yeah. He's a singer, performing artist. Yeah, for sure.
If you lost all of your gear in a tragic house fire and had to start over with only $1,000, what would you get?
I'll get a laptop. I would get a laptop. That would be my instrument. I would learn to make music I would use the keys on the laptop because this device allows me to talk to my phone, and my phone could talk to it. I could do videos, airdrop it, and I can do music on the numeric pad. Whereas a standalone device, you run into, oh shoot, like even with this, how do I get what's in here to DistroKid? so I would say a laptop.
So you are episode 10 of the podcast. And so in the 10 episodes I've asked that question, 3 people have said a laptop. So
yeah,
you're in good company there.
Yeah.
Who is a music producer you look up to?
Just one, huh?
You can say as many as you want.
Okay, I definitely look up to, even though he's not with us, but Jay Dilla for sure. His birthday was yesterday, so got to acknowledge that. Major influence on my production. I definitely look up to Quincy Jones, Pharrell Williams, definitely the producers that's helped ushered in trap soul. So your Nasito and all those types of guys for sure.
And then what do people get wrong about being a musician?
People think that there's from the outside or from like a musician's perspective?
From the outside. Either or. I mean, honestly, both if you want to.
Okay. From the outside, people think there's no money in this. Like, being a musician, they think like you're broke. You're a musician? Dang, how's life? So there's that. And then from the more of the inside of stuff, most people get wrong that you have to realize it's not a one person show. Like even in your own music, you can't let one instrument be the one person show all the time unless you're a classical pianist or something. I get that. That's something else. But what I mean is if you're doing music and you're playing multiple things, or you're your own artist, you have to realize that other things work around what you're doing, whether it's from the song creation itself, whether it's management, whether it's marketing, your own fans. I think a lot of creatives think we're this artsy being at the rooftop somewhere and people will just worship us. It's like, that's not how it works.
Well, Yaahn, it has been such a pleasure having you on the Rhynestone podcast. I think a lot of our listeners are going to get a lot of great info and great, just experiences. And I think you've given a lot of people just really good advice on like how to take their music to the next level. In this last little section, is there anything you'd like to bump or shout out or anything like that? The floor is yours.
For sure. My latest single that's out currently is the Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. That's Hunter Mix. Check me out there on Spotify. But I wouldn't fall too much in love with that song by itself, because I got another single coming out this week, or probably in a few hours at midnight. We're going into a new space. Still chill, but we're just going to pick up the tempo a little bit. I'm gradually taking people on this journey with me musically of like, okay, we've done the chill stuff, the more slow, let's kind of speed it up a little bit. And I want to see how people respond to that. So chill house vibes. You can assume that it's house, four on the floor, more effects being thrown at people, filters and different things, but yet still maintaining those minor sevens that we know and love to be chill. So chill house vibes drops at midnight tonight, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Is there any collaborators on that chill house vibes?
It's just me on this one. And just to set the tone for the shift. But I got some other stuff that we're bringing some buddies in and some other creators that people love. We're gonna mesh these sounds together.
Well, Yaahn, thank you so much for coming on the Rhynestone podcast. This was a blast, and I can't wait for people to find you. And where is the best place for people to find you and get in touch?
Sure. All socials, Y Hunter Music. The letter Y, last name Hunter Music. If you type that in, you'll find me everywhere. Even on streaming platforms now. Now, my artist name is my real name. I didn't come up in a time where my handle name was my artist name. But Yaahn Hunter Jr. is my full artist name. But if you type in Y Hunter Music, I'll still pop up.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Yaahn, for hanging out with us. And until next time, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out our podcast with Yaahn Hunter Jr. Yaahn is just mind-blowing how talented of an individual he is, not only on the music front, but on the content creation front and on the business front. Yaahn is doing so many things and has his fingers in so many different places. And it just shows that you can have like a nice middle-class life and be a musician. It's possible. You don't have to be either a, Drake, Taylor Swift, filling out stadiums type artist, or just the bottom of the barrel, scraping by, penniless, starving artist. There is a middle ground, and you can do it. And Yaahn is just an amazing example of someone, everybody's heard his beats, his sounds, but maybe not know him by his face. And I think it's just a really great way of seeing that this stereotype of musicians being broke or musicians only not making any money is just not true. You just have to be smart and play it like a business. And if you're able to do that, you can 100% shift the narrative of your life by making good quality stuff. And that's just what I'm so happy that we were able to kind of talk about and explore here on the Rhynestone podcast. So I want to say our intro and outro music is Target Rockstar by Maddie Music Madness. Our first bump music was Mrs. Claus by Zach Stitch. Our second ad music was Down the Hall Waiting by Zach Alexander. And let's see. That's it for that. If you guys like this, please like and subscribe. Every follower helps. And my name is Banner Driskell. You can find me anywhere you do social media, Banner Driskell Media. And if you guys have any questions, concerns, anything like that, send them to my email, rhynestonemusic@gmail.com. That's RHYNESTONE music@gmail.com. Wherever you do, just send me an email. I'm tired. RHYNESTONE music@gmail.com. If you have any questions, complaints, concerns, anything like that. And until next time, happy music making.